You're listening to the Devil Dog Talk Show.
This show contains explicit material and is recommended for ages 18 and older for mature audiences only. But hey, it's the internet.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Devil Dog Talk Show. Today we have Beau Higgins, and we have a lot to catch up on. He has an amazing career, and I'm just going to go right into it. Beau, welcome to the Devil Dog Talk Show. Thank you for coming in.
Man, thank to be here today. Excited to share a little bit of my story with folks out there, and really appreciate this being on the program today, man. Fired up.
Nice. I love it. I love the energy. You know, just a moment ago, right before we started, I feel it. I feel it through the lens and the screen of the camera. I mean, if it's just the blazer, no, it's oh man, it's that vibe. It's fire. Yes, that is so Marine Corps. I'm so ready for this era, right? All that good stuff. Right. Okay, but we got to get into it. How did you start your journey in the military?
It's a great question. You know, it's funny. So my dad was a Marine growing up, but before I was born. So he was an enlisted Marine. So I was not like in a military family, but I knew stories of his military time, and he would tell tales of mostly of tales of him and his knucklehead buddies in the Marine Corps doing dumb stuff, you know, but I kind of had that seed planted in the back of my head. My dad loved the Marines as a result of being in for a while. Although he was a Lance Corporal 3 times, I think. He didn't go very far, but he had a good time, right? And then I was my senior year of college. I'm finishing up at University of Virginia. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Most of my buddies were going back to law school or business school, and I'm like, I was not the greatest student. I was really good in the fraternity house. I was not a classroom guy, and I literally saw the Marine Corps recruiter hanging out at the library at the University of Virginia, and I went over and started talking to him. And the next thing you know, I'm signing up to do this Marine Corps thing, and I had no idea what I was really getting into. So I was not in ROTC. I signed up for an officer candidate school, which you do once you graduate. And I thought, you know, I would do my 4 or 5 years, get out, go back eventually, get my MBA and move on and, end up doing 25 years, man. So it was literally saw the recruiter, uniform looked good. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I figured this Marine Corps team was a good team to join for a while, and that's it.
That's beautiful. That is amazing. You're right. It's one of the best teams in the world. I'll tell you what, it's not a branch of service, it's a cult. And gentlemen that believe in that facility of what the Marine Corps creates, I just think that we carry it a little bit further. Like yourself, you did the 25, right? You didn't walk in on it like you're going to, oh, this is what I'm going to take from this. You know, it was, hey, I'm here to serve. I get this opportunity to serve. Now, when you came into the military, what was the military like in that era, so to speak?
Yeah, you know, this is late 80s. So at the time, you know, it was post fall of the Iron Curtain, you know, so it's pretty much it was kind of that peacetime in the initial part of it. But right after I joined was, you know, Desert Storm, the original Desert Storm. So it did ramp up pretty quickly when I was in my training. That to me, I kind of came from nowhere, but I don't think it was expected, right? But it had been, I think the military had been in kind of a lull in that peace dividend period in the 80s. But, you know, things definitely picked up some right there when Desert Storm kicked off. So it was a very different Marine Corps, and the whole military obviously changed during my time and got to be much more of a combat organization, focused organization later on during it. But at the time was pretty, I say, you know, is routine, if you will, just kind of, you know, going out on Muse, kind of just going out there doing exercises and training. But there wasn't a lot of real world mission sets going on initially.
Solid, man. You know, you bring up a really great point is the Desert Storm, the pre-Desert Storm. And then even before then, the kind of that peace period that we had within all nations, it was pretty good. Even though it was the Cold Era warfare and all that good stuff, there was a lot of different things. And it kind of just temperature just kind of got cranked up, right? When you're in the earlier phases, how did you navigate the Marine Corps in a way where you could best serve it and it could best serve you?
That's a great question too. And, you know, and I probably had a somewhat of a unique experience in that I was a signals intelligence officer. So I was an intel guy. and intelligence is always 24/7, right? No matter if you're, peacetime, wartime, intelligence is important, right? You have to have that. There's always real world stuff going on in the world that you have to kind of stay current on, right? So I do feel like because of my military specialty, you definitely had at least, you had some kind of stake in the game 24/7, where maybe other MLS, like if you're a nuclear biological guy, you probably didn't have much going on back in that kind of day, but 24/7, there's always something going on. So I really enjoyed that part of it, and, being in the intel community, because again, you do feel like there's always news, always something to be thinking about, something to be planning about. More often than not, it didn't turn into anything. But if you look at the 90s, there's a lot of different things that kind of popped up, from obviously Desert Storm, but then you had Somalia, then you had Bosnia, and I went to Somalia, I went to Bosnia, so they weren't huge conflicts, but they were enough where there was something where we had active duty forces and troops going in and doing real world missions, so small numbers, relatively speaking, compared to an OIF or an OEF, but there was still real world activity where you felt like you needed to bring your A game to the table and be part of that as the intel guy.
That's beautiful. I really dig the energy, because when we talk to different MOSs, services, NECs, branches, there seems to be this kind of disconnect on what everybody's doing and what their key roles are. And I don't blame anybody, but I do blame Hollywood and media and these talking heads, because we glorify the big jobs, the big numbers, those big conflicts. And I'm like, hey, the fact that we didn't have big conflicts is kind of speaking to our intelligence personnel, right? The fact that we were proactive in a lot of the things that we did in beforehand and during OEF, OIF, and all the different EF, OIFs and stuff. It's really peculiar, because you bring up Somalia and you bring up Bosnia. When you're doing these different key roles, right? Because I know the GWAT changed the central focus of how we perceive threats and what is going to get either actionable attention or awareness. And I get it. It's centered across money and economics and a lot of things. How did that affect you when you were in that space out there?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I think, from the big picture, the military piece is one tool in the government's toolbox, right? There should be the diplomatic piece, there should be the information piece, there should be the economic piece, and the military is a piece in the toolbox, but it's not the right tool for every situation, and it should be the last tool you pull out of the toolbox. Now, I think it is often the easiest tool to pull out, because you can shoot some missiles and it's kind of, it has an impact and there's something there to it, right? But I think it often gets overutilized, where there should be other things that are being done to prevent the military piece from ever having to happen. Again, that should be the last resort that's out there. Now, again, it becomes easy. I think it's something that it obviously makes a statement. If we're moving aircraft carriers and we're moving news somewhere, we're launching missiles, and that makes a statement. And that's clear that we are kind of going all in at that point in time. But again, it should be the last resort. And again, I just don't think people understand a lot of times that there are always a lot of other things happening below the surface. There is the diplomatic stuff going on. There are sanctions going on. There's information pressure warfare going on all the time. And the military, again, is just one segment of the larger piece of creating that policy. But as an intel guy, again, you always are you're always on. Your game is always on, because you're trying to understand all of those things and understand which tool in the toolbox hopefully can be utilized best to make an impact for the U.S., right?
Absolutely. That's the kind of spirit I wished every service member came to the conversation with, is, hey, number one, we don't want to be working. That's not the goal. If what you are represents the literal hell on earth for people, our enemies as a country. Now, this is where I really want to highlight it, because, when you mention the facts that we use this tool too often and in a way where we are now recognized globally for being the world police. Like there was a comedic movie, Team America, back in the day. Didn't know we were going to actually do that, guys. Like I was like, okay, now I watch the movie as if almost as much as Idiocracy, and I say, hey, what are we doing, right? In your opinion, do you feel as though the United States currently, or at least, we'll touch a little bit about current issues first. What, if do you feel like we are giving ourselves the opportunity to lead in a different way?
Well, I think again, because we have been military, the world's police force for a long time. Obviously we led the way in Afghanistan, we led the way in Iraq, whether you believe in it or not, that's not the point. But I think the challenge obviously is the military is a great tool, but it's a temporal fix, right? You can put boots on the ground and you can fix anywhere and quiet it down for a while. But when you leave, there has to be something to fill that void. And if you don't have something to fill it, it's never going to really fix the problem. So how do you fix the root problems? And these are hard questions. These are, Gordian knot type questions. I'm not saying it's easy, but again, I think that's the way, if you're, thinking about things long term, like how do we fix the root causes of this stuff? Because again, can the military, US military go in anywhere and make a certain space safe for a while? 100%. What do you want to stay there forever? No. So to do that, you have to be thinking, okay, how do we fix some of the, internal problems or the bigger conflicts that are out there to be able to let us go back and, be home. We don't want to go out there and fight. We will. We certainly do. We're trained for it. We're prepared to do it. We can do it. We do it very, very well when called upon. But certainly it's not, I think it's never fun. It's necessary. It's required. It's an important tool. But again, I think it can be utilized too much, and it can almost be too easy to use it sometimes instead of doing the hard things to fix the problems long term.
Brother, the way you're talking about it, it just makes me want to go out and spend time in a bar with you, because we would be able to educate so many young men, young Marines, in the ways of getting to this age. And I see it because you're hitting it right, the nail right on the head, right? And I see this potential of integrating and communication and leading from the front, but doing it in a way where, we're educating, like, hey, Beau's intelligence, Marine, man, he's got a lot of accolades, a lot of credit, a lot of clout, like our community loves to see. And I agree with you, whether you agree or not me and you, but the listeners, right? About us going in or out of a country for any reason. I think we got to really understand, like, okay, and this is economics talking, not me talking. If you have a security dog and you send it everywhere because it's easy to intimidate others, right? And you don't actually develop the place, then when that dog leaves, people are going to behave in a weird way. There's a power vacuum.
Yeah.
With all the interests now in Mexico, I talk a lot about Mexico. I have family in Mexico, believe it or not, Mexican, right? Martinez, right? And the goal is to always say, well, how do we treat our neighbors better, right? How do we get Canadians and Mexico better? And I saw President Trump going out, and they were all hanging out, having great conversations. And I go, see, that's the type of genuine leadership that our country needs. And it seems like you have your head wrapped around that very, very well.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you have perspective from being and spending a lot of time in the military as an intel guy and being in a lot of those conversations at high levels, and having spent time in Somalia and Bosnia, Afghanistan, Iraq, and in the Pentagon and in these conversations with senior leaders, you hopefully can gain some perspective for that. Again, I think when you're a more junior, as a second lieutenant, I certainly did not have that perspective, right? I mean, I think it's all about how do you develop your leadership toolbox over time, right? And again, I think as a lieutenant, you have one or two tools in the toolbox. You have a hammer, maybe, and a screwdriver, right? But and those can work. I mean, they can work in a limited fashion, but over time, you need to try to find the right tool for the right situation and the right problem, right? And that's kind of how I view the bigger world, right? I mean, some cases or some situations require a special tool that needs to be used in this incident. And can you use a hammer? Yes, you can use a hammer, but it's probably not the best way to do it because it'll cause a lot of damage. And there's going to be second and third order effects. If instead of you use a long range, scalpel, that would be a much better tool sometimes, right? So it's just understanding that and understanding, having clear goals of what you're, what are you trying to get out of this in the first place, set that very clearly and understand, what and how do you get out of there? I mean, understanding, having an exit plan. When you start, I'm going to do these 3 things. And when they are done, I am done, and not get that mission creep. That's what happens so often, right? We get there and like, oh yeah, and let's do this. And then we'll do that. And then we'll do that. And then, you get stuck, and then it goes really, really hard. And it's hard to get out of there. So it's a challenge. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's something I think we don't do a very good job sometimes as planning long-term. We're very reactive instead of being more proactive from a planning side of the house.
Dude, you're really speaking my love language, like with this whole preparation, planning, everything. In medical, right? The goals is to send people home intact and healthy. And it takes a lot of planning, preparation, training, execution of logistics and supply, communication, intelligence reports. Hey, can we get trade routes through here and here to get our normal saline? No, they got a lot of damn bombs, Joey. They go, okay, all right, hey, calm down. I get it, but we still need normal saline. Well, I'll do something. All right, cool. Walk over to the Army guys. Hey, here's a PS2. Turn the other way. Okie doke. And that's the kind of thing that gets things done. When you spent your time in the upper echelons, let's say in the Pentagon, right? How was your information perceived? Was leadership and executive functioning receptive to what it is you had to say and your input?
I mean, I think to a degree, right? I mean, you usually have at least nobody. I certainly, as a colonel, I got out as a colonel, which is pretty senior, but I don't have all the big picture, and I don't understand all the ramifications of things and decisions that are being made out there. So, I think for any time you are there to give your advice or present a paper or present on a certain topic, you do the best you can given the information you have. And again, the information you provide is typically then going to be taken in by the commander that you're supporting, and they have other inputs, and they may agree or disagree with what your analysis is or the way you want to do things. That's fine. You have to understand that's how it is. And if they agree with you, great, let's go do it. If they disagree with you, say, that's great. That's your call. You're the boss. I just, I did my best. I gave my best advice, my analytical decision or intel assessment on things. And from there, it's on you. And then we lock arms and we move forward together. And there's no hard feelings of whether my course of action was chosen or not, right? So I'm going to support the boss no matter what he says, whether it's what I think is the best choice or not, based on my limited view of the world. They're bringing in inputs from other places and maybe have political factors and things that I'm not privy to sometimes, right? So again, even as a relatively senior person in the military, you can only influence so much or shape so much. And at some point, you get on with the team win and go forward no matter what the decision is, right? This is how we roll.
Exactly. Moving forward in unison, boldly, and carrying out the task, right? Excuse me. It's okay to have difference of opinions, right? Especially with Marines. Me and my Marines, man, I miss every single one of them. Even the ones that we were in training with and all the different stuff that we got into out in Camp Lejeune, Camp Johnson, Camp Pendleton, you name it, right? And especially out in Al Qaim, that was where we were stationed. And the interesting part about it is that when you have difference of opinions, egos do flare. Okay. We're men, right? We're men, and we're men in Christ, right? And that's where we look at it and say, well, then what is the best way we can communicate that? Because I remember going to the tree line a couple of times. I mean, guys don't want to listen. They didn't agree that we needed a water buffalo. And I was like, yes, we do. And they didn't want to put in the extra orders or the workforce. And I was like, okay, then you're going to catch these hands, bro, because I'm not going to be sticking a thermometer up of everybody's ass just because you don't want to plan or prepare. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I'm not that orientation. I'm good. I'll still do the job, but that's not what gets me going. All right? I'm not trying to touch y'all. All right? Like that's the funniest part of being a corpsman. And when you do present your let's say your intelligence reports, your analytics and stuff like that, right? How do you manage when something doesn't go as favorable or in your eyes perceptively in the direction that it ought to?
Well, again, I think you can't take it personally, right? That's the biggest thing, right? This is not about winning as the intel officer, right? It's about winning as the military as the United States. So if my opinion isn't the one that wins the day, you have to just be able to say, okay, I gave my best advice. I feel good about the analysis that I provided, to the commander. And then when the decision's made, all that gets forgotten as best you can. I get some, it's hard. I'm not saying this is always easy. Egos are out there. Then you get on for the big team win and support in any way you can, right? I mean, at that point, it's okay. Decision's been made. We're moving out. I'm going to do whatever I can to support, the Marine sailors, airmen, soldiers that are out there, part of this mission, and figure it the heck out, and just be part of that team win from there, right? Whether it's your plan or not, it's the plan that's been decided on, and now we're all in. Let's go,
That's beautiful. I love that energy, right? It's regardless of our individual wins, we need to stack up the W's for Team America.
Yeah.
I got to take a note on that. Was a good setup. But we literally have to. We have to go for Team America. We got to come back to these ethics and principles and founding morals of integrity, where it's okay to get, it's okay to get knocked in the dick every now and again, egotistically. But we have to come exactly to the table and say, hey, regardless of, we're stepping out and this is what we're doing, team. And I think that's a beautiful kind of metaphor or allegory or whatever we want to call it. Joey's words are, turning into soup here, is to kind of come back together and assess what we're doing, right? I do have a follow-up question about your Marine Corps experience, okay? Being a reconnaissance leader, being a colonel. What was it that separated the leadership qualities that you found in specialized units versus your day-to-day Joes?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question too. I mean, I think it's one of those things where, in the recon community, you just had guys that were 100% type A personalities. They wanted to be the best of the best every day. Now, I'm not saying that any Marine that joins up, they all have the opportunity to join these units. The possibility is there. They're a little bit extra, right? It's a little bit more, they had a little bit more drive, a little bit more maybe grit, a little bit more something. And they were willing to, I think part of it is, you have to be willing to accept failure, but you have to really put yourself out there to be assessed, to go to these units, to believe in yourself. First, I think there's a common element of the people that get there have a belief that they can get it done. They have what it takes to be successful and are not afraid to jump, right? They're not afraid to take that leap and not to say, I kind of want to be a SEAL. Like, I don't want to be in recon. Well, you can't kind of want it. You got to want it and then go, right? And come, right? So I think that's it. There's just a belief, an inner belief in their ability to be successful, that they can get it done no matter what, and that they have that something to make, to get through when it's going to be the most difficult situations, and want it and seek that out, right? And they seek out those type of opportunities to put themselves in places that are the most challenging and the most dangerous, and that's what they want. So it's a mindset, I think, more than anything. That's the differentiator. I don't think it's not purely a physical thing. It's not purely a mental thing. It's a mindset of, I believe in myself. I want to be the best. I'm going to, try to do the hardest things possible to prove to myself that I can, and the guys that are successful in that are in these units, which makes it both very easy to lead and also challenging in some ways, right? It's easy because they're motivated and you don't have to fire them up, but it's challenging because you have to keep them excited, right? If they get bored, they cause trouble. I mean, they can cause, you have to really make sure you're pushing them. It's a challenge from the command part to keep the level of excitement and intensity up, because again, downtime can be the worst thing there is for guys that are type A kind of guys, So yeah.
It truly is. I've been in a lot of different rooms, a lot of different people, served with a lot of different types, and you nailed it right on the head there. The types of individual are self-initiating. They're type A's, right? They have a profound belief in their inner self, And that ability to seek that adversity and challenge oneself to the point where you champion through, I see that very much more in common. And you're right, it's a mindset, a philosophy, an approach, a mythos, right? I really see the future is within those groups of people seeing their same abilities that we had in the military and carry them out into the community, right? Because there's a lot of gentlemen that I talk to, and I'm always trying to plant seeds in their head, like, you should run for mayor in your town, you should run for Congress, like, we really desperately need a different congressman, you need to really run for governor of California, because my God, right? And that's the truth, is these leadership qualities that you were able to identify, seek, and participate with. It's profound, because the mission tempo is what the focus is on. And you brought it up, when you're not focused on mission, the calamity, the chaos, right? The walls start closing in. And it's that effort to continue and push that I find gentlemen that are within those organizations or groups that are very much so also limiting themselves at that perspective. Like, a lot of people I talk to in the military to begin with, they don't feel as though they deserve to be the person in the forefront or the stage or the center focus or that person that got the answer right. Nobody raises their hand, even if they got the answers right. And I think that's something that I learned serving with a lot of different gentlemen, a lot of great leaders like yourself, where if you don't do that, you don't know. It's just take your shot, right? And if you can't take your shot, dial it in, practice it a bit. That is just amazing. So when you're in the Marine Corps, okay, what was the thing that transitioned you out of the Marine Corps? How did that go about?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, and I talk to a lot of transitioning veterans all the time, so that's what I do. I'm in that space now, and I look back to me, and when I talk to people, I say this, when when it's time, it's time, and there's always a lot of factors that come into play, and for me, it was a big part of it was family, a big part of it was, I felt like, so I had made colonel, I had colonel command. I knew from there it was probably going to DC. If I wanted to try to be a general, which, is that important to you? My oldest child of 5 had just finished her freshman year of high school. So it meant a lot more moves. I mean, I just felt like, okay, I did command. I came in thinking I'm going to do 4 or 5 years, and I've done 25 years. And I'm like, I'm just good. I don't know. This inside me, I knew I was good. I mean, there was nothing that was exciting me about what the next job was. I mean, we had been through, I'd done 3 deployments to Iraq. I'd just gotten back from Iraq at that time. I just finished my 3rd deployment to Iraq. I'd done 3 deployments to Afghanistan. I mean, I had done so much more than I ever thought I would ever do in the military. And again, I think part of it was just kind of like, okay, I'm good. My family could use a break as well. My wife had, they would have done whatever I asked. I have no doubt about it. But I mean, I was just ready. I just knew that it was time for me to take that next step, that I had achieved everything I wanted. I had done more than I ever expected. And I know I was just ready for that next, phase in life, if you will. And yeah, that was it.
No, that's beautiful, because it really speaks to me profoundly, right? The end of my military career was not by choice nor by signal of which I could have determined was good or bad. It was just, hey, bud, this is your medical conditions and you're falling apart. See you later. And it always kind of left a bitter taste in my mouth. But it's great to hear that, gentlemen like yourself, you have to come to these determinations with an exit plan, right? An entry and an exit. Sometimes it's good to have an equation between the middle, nice whole mathematical situation to analyze and think about. But if we constantly think about, hey, I don't get to, or hey, I got to, or even in your case, 25 years was it. I'm like, well, dude, that's a lot of years, right? That's more than a lot of people. You raised a family within that. How did that transition go when you finally decided that was this next phase? Was it something adverse, something difficult, or was there internal struggles as well as external struggles?
For my transition for me, is I enjoyed the transition process, to be candid. And then part of that is probably my personality. I mean, I probably didn't do it the best I could have. I was in command, so I was pretty busy, and I had just gotten back from a deployment in January, and I was getting out in June. So I didn't do all the things that I probably in retrospect would have done.
Mm.
Which I encourage everyone to start as soon as possible. I mean, I say this all the time. As soon as you join the military, you are going to be getting out at some point. So transition is continuous. So you should always be thinking about getting out as soon as you get in some way, shape, or form. I don't know if that means, it's like slacking off on day one. If it means understand that it's a finite period of time, no matter you do 3 years, 3 months, 30 years, transition is going to happen at some time. Just be aware of that, I think, right? So for me, what that meant was during my time in the military, I was pretty good at staying connected to friends of mine from high school and college and family and whatnot. When I see a lot of folks that were my peers, and especially the junior guys, I feel like they got into the military and they like that became their only existence, right? It's like, I make the analogy, it's like the Shawshank Redemption. You become institutionalized, right?
Mm-hmm.
You are inside the gates of that wall. Everything you do, everything, how you operate is all about the uniform and the rank and being inside the institution. And you lose the ability to function in the outside world. It becomes scary to go back from the military to the civilian sector. I tried to maintain that during my Marine Corps time. And then when I was getting out, networking is life, right? And I say all the time, if there's a one-letter difference between networking and not working. So if you're not networking, you're going to be not working most likely, right? So networking though has this negative connotation to it. What your point before about getting plasma from the Army, like that's networking, right? That's your buddy, your hookup because you got a guy, right? That's networking. Well, somehow if you do it in the military to get, if you wanted this, you wanted that, you want to trade them. That's okay. But if you want to get a guy for a job, but somehow it seems bad for veterans. I don't know why they think that. It's not true. Right. But my point of all this is, during that time when I was getting out, I just started talking to people saying, hey, kind of focusing my shot group of where did I want to live? So I knew I wanted to come back to Tampa. I kind of knew I wanted to get in operations. I didn't know what that meant. But just started talking to everyone like, hey, you're in commercial real estate. You sell buildings. What the heck do you do? Like, what is a day in the life of a dude that sells buildings? Like, what I like that? I don't know. Maybe talk to him. You're a banker. What do you do? Like, you're in sales. What's it like? Just talking to people about what their jobs are to figure out what you like, what you don't want to do, what you do want to do, and that's just kind of you're targeting the whole time, right? You're bracketing closer and closer. Okay, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I want a little piece of this. And how do you find the opportunity that's a good fit for what you want? And once you kind of figure out the shot group of what you want to do, then it's like, then you really figure out, all right, who are people that are doing what I want to do? How do I talk to them? How do I learn more about it? So again, I really did enjoy the 50 cups of coffee analogy, right? The idea is you need to just go out and have 50 cups of coffee with people and talk to them and get your name in play. And just, that is what a successful transition looks like, is talking to people. And I get it. That is not in the comfort zone for a lot of people, but that's the reality. If you want to be successful, that's what you have to do. And again, for me, that was an enjoyable process to reconnect with people that I hadn't maybe for a while. What have you been doing? Hey, yeah, I'm doing this. I'm getting ready to get out. I'm thinking about this, and people are more than happy to spend a little time with you and share their stories and catch up with you, So I think if you think you're bothering people, you're wrong. They are interested in your story. They want to help you, especially guys that have gotten out already are happy. Certainly to send the elevator back down and help you out and hopefully save you from making mistakes they made, right? That's where we're all out here trying to do. So I embraced the process as best I could, and it worked out pretty well for me. Again, it's not perfect, but I enjoyed it more than most. I would have to say that.
See, that's amazing because first and foremost, that was totally not my experience. Had the absolute polar opposite. I was kicking and screaming and clenching and clinging, trying not to do what it was I didn't feel was right. But you're right that network ability and being able to not necessarily influence in a manipulative way, right? In a way where we're looking out for one another, because that's exactly why these programs exist, right? That's exactly why we exist as an organization. And to make sure that, I love the saying, family eats first, right? But when we stop looking at each other as if we're family, this is where I find this crab trap within the veteran community, in a way where we're just prying at nickels and dimes, but in a real fight, we're not even kind of paying attention. There's this lack of, again, communication, right? Communication. What is networking? What isn't it? It's one letter away from not working. I'm never going to forget that now, Mr. I have TBIs and I don't remember shit. All right. I'll replay this every day. It's clipped. This is clippable, right? Because when you bring that up in the way that you do, it's something to be eager about. It's anxiety, sure. It's an emotion, but the difference between anxiety and eagerness is your perspective, right? I remember shaking my first emergency room I ever worked in Camp Lejeune, right? Mark Marva, the nurse of the day, or whatever that's called back in the day, a wrestler dad that I haven't seen in years and years, and he walks in the room, and here I am, pimply faced young guy, straight into the Navy, probably not even 18 years old or just about, and he's guiding me in these ways of living as a mentor and being able to communicate my goals and desires for the military. He was able to mentor me and guide me, got me into classes, right? All throughout my stay at Camp Lejeune, we got to go to EKG classes of ATLS, trauma, all this different stuff. And of course, being in an emergency room, it's where everybody goes for an emergency, believe it or not, right? So it's pretty good if you're going to be actively engaging with Marines in any space, right? That is such a great way of thinking it. Beau, like, I am just trying to roll my brain around the thought process of how do we improve then this ability to connect? How do we show people that it's not wrong, it's okay? And how do we then confidently choose that path?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, and again, I think the challenge is certainly it's every individual is going to do it their own way, right? And again, I can empathize with so many of my E5s and below that were getting out, right? All they wanted to do when they were getting out was get the heck out. Just they wanted to be done, right? They were not listening to anything that the gunny said, the colonel said. It's like I am done. I am getting out. I am going back home, and I want to be out, right? And then they get back to mom's basement, and 6 months later, they're like, man, this kind of blows. I missed the guy. I should listen to the gunny. I should listen to what they said, but and it's too late because you didn't do all the things you're supposed to do back then. So it's just the reality is everyone is not going to do it by the book, right? But I think the important thing, no matter how you do it, is to understand there are people like you, there are people like me, there are tens of thousands of veterans that have transitioned out, that have made it out, that are more than happy to provide time and insights to help you as well. Like, you're not alone. Somehow people think like I'm the only person that ever transitioned, that I was an 0311 or that was a 11 Bravo, or I was what was my dude? No, like there's lots of you that have done it, and you're gonna be fine too. Now you have to put the work in. You have to ask for help. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges that I try to push veterans on. It's like, look, it's okay to ask for help. And again, you're a doc, you get this. Like, it's a stigma in the military to ask for help, right? If you have to go and get help to get even a freaking Motrin, sometimes people, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be on the report for this, for that. I won't be deployable if I'm like broken to shit, but I'm not going to tell anybody because I don't want to ask for help, right? So I think they have this, veterans all just have this time like, oh, asking for help is weakness. I'm like, no, not in this case. Like, when you're transitioning out, if you're not asking for help, you're dooming yourself, right? You need to ask for help. You need to step up and be willing to hopefully ask your buddies, right? Because you have buddies that got out that were your peers, and you talk to them. Don't be afraid to say, hey, how'd you do it? Who'd you talk to? What resources do you use? Did you use Higher Heroes, or did you use 4Block, or did you use whatever? What did you do? Because if there's someone they can relate to, again, maybe a colonel is not the person that a corpsman can relate to, right? That's fine. But there's other corpsmen that have done this. So you can find your buddies that have your same MOS, your same rate, find them, talk to them, have a beer with them. How'd you do it? And then it becomes, oh, okay, yeah, you do that. You're a knucklehead, dude. You were an idiot, and you're doing, like that. It seems simple, but it's hard, and it's really just asking for help. When somehow asking for help can be an anathema to military guys because it shows weakness. They believe it does, which is not true. That's what people believe. That's overcoming that is the biggest challenge.
I agree with you 100%. Like, for the love of God, guys, you can listen to everybody. You don't need to listen to people just like yourself. All right, we got Beau here literally dropping 1,000-pound gold nuggets, and you get to have a beer? Shit. Man, that's 100% better than what most people are giving themselves. In between the ears, the best, worst enemy is ourself. That's something that I profoundly believe in. Now, you clearly know how to communicate, right? You can articulate your passions, yourself, your history. What if the Marine is that 0311 knuckle dragging, crayon eating motherfucker you want on a firefight? The technical questions is like, hey, dog, Barney style. Those are the type of gentlemen I find aren't always the worst off, but they're the ones that we have to break through to. How do you correspond, or how do you build that rapport with your enlisted service member?
And again, I think part of it is, shared service. If you've been a Marine, if you've been to, in this same unit, in this same deployment, can talk a little bit of the talk to feel like they in respect piece of it is a part of it, right? I think from a pure, how do your skills align to the real world part? There's also a belief again that, I'm combat arms, I'm good at being homeless. I can live with stuff on my back in the woods forever, but what am I good at in the real world, right? They don't need me to go, kick indoors or whatever, right? But in reality, and again, one of the companies I work for now is called Oplign, Oplign, great company. It is a tool that helps veterans match their skills to jobs. So again, I'll bring up 0311s, right? Or 11 Bravo, to infantrymen. They have so many skills that companies want. They just don't think about it, right? I mean, all these things that they do, hey, I can work at night, in weather, at heights. Dude, power companies would die to have you. You're teachable. You've learned to master a system, a machine gun system, a drone system. You're teachable. You've learned these things in the military. You can learn these things in this other company too, right? But I can't teach a guy to work at night and to show up on time and to work at heights and to work in weather, right? That's something that you bring, you may not know. Or maybe you're a jump master. Dude, you're good at quality inventory control. You're good at inspections. You do these things that you don't understand how your skills can translate over to the real world. Well, there are tools out there that will help you. Oh, you went to this school, you went to that school, you went to this school. Man, there are things that you can pull out of that companies would love to have, and you don't appreciate it. No, I'm just a dumb grunt, so again, don't sell yourself short. Use resources like Oplign. Other AI tools might be out there as well. You have skills people want. And that's what I think people sell themselves short and don't understand or appreciate how to translate their skills to the job market. And on the flip side, most companies, recruiters that are, they have no idea what to do. What, you're a mechanic? What? Well, I mean, no, dude, that you can actually probably do a lot of other things, or you're teachable. Again, you're teachable, you're coachable. That alone is worthwhile. I can teach you to fix wind turbines or whatever too, so it's just, don't sell yourself short. That's just people just trying to think, oh, well, there's nothing going out there for me. There's no jobs because I'm a sapper or whatever. Dude, there's jobs. Just dig into it a little more, use the resources out there, talk to your peers that have walked the ground before, and you'll be fine. I'm
so about what you just said that I don't really know how to follow it up with a continuance other than yeah.
I'll take it.
Right? Because it's true. It's one of those moments in my life where I'm not the person with the words fucking finally that makes it make sense. And this is the thing I've been saying for 15 years, right? Don't sell yourself short, kiddo. Like I tell myself that I record it and then I play it back when I'm sad or when I forget, because I forget. And my wife, she goes to here, play. I'm like, oh, hey, I made myself feel better. I'm so stupid. Oh, why can't I do this every day? Right. And it's true. You sometimes your 100% is going to look different. Okay. It's never going to look different from everybody else. But the one thing I always saw my Marines do is show up, right? Put in the effort. And you're right. They do sell themselves short. That's like a seashell. She sells more. They do sell themselves short, where we look at the opportunities, right? One of the companies that you were just discussing, Oplign, right? The other companies that you worked for, literally creating these implementations of finding these strategic insertion points for the veteran community, right? And you're translating their core skills into the love language of corporate America, all right? If I wasn't so versed in being with doctors, my career, my life, right? I don't think I'd ever be able to articulate the way that I do, because again, I grew up, at public school. I'm not negging, okay, public school. Let's just say it's not top notch, okay? Especially in California, especially in Lemoore, California, especially in the 90s, okay? It just wasn't. And even now I understand that kids, we get the recruitment numbers from where we get them, okay? We can't ever decide who volunteers for what, or who decides to become colonels or stays at an E5 level, or repeats E4 level or E4 level 4 times. It's like, hey, you got it sleeved out, right? All these dash marks and you are E3. It's like, yeah, I met dudes saltier than a salt lick, man. And it comes back to that. They sell themselves short. I've seen line corpsmen step into a room, we're deployed, okay, dog? Like, I don't care if you come out here with your dick out, we're good, okay? And they would walk into the room with these doctors, and it's just like, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, okay. Would you recommend I don't give them morphine if they have a head injury? It's like, no, like, yes, you don't do that. Why are you choking on your words in front of this idiot? Because they have a title? Yeah, okay, whoa. And it's the vice versa, right? I had to step into a lot of roles where leadership is coming down in a way where it's not going to work out. And like I said, I love these hands. God gave me some strong ones. So when things come up, I love stepping into the space, because being a corpsman, there wasn't anything off limits to me, right? Whether it just be my personality or not. Hey, maybe I took advantage of it too. Then, yeah, being a corpsman, you could walk into rooms, and I've seen Marines, men that I looked up to, and I still do, right? I still look up to them. Frank Percy every day, right? He's an officer Mustang, PA. But one of the Marines that I served with that I looked up to, and I watch in my head play over how he behaved when we were deployed. I sit back and I go, hey, how do I emulate that? Right? Like, kind of like yourself. How do I emulate Beau at this phase of his life, working on things like Oplign, connecting veterans to amazing resources, amazing programs within Amazon, right? These huge accomplishments, being a colonel. Okay. I think, yes, you are the first colonel ever on the Devil Doc Talk Show. So that's a big plus. But P.S., you're the most realist motherfucking colonel I've ever met. Like, hey, your blazer's just on point, dude. Like, big dog. Like, oh my God. Like, I'm just still so jazzed. And it's like, it's already been 50 minutes. I'm like, there's no fucking way. So, man, I'm super jazzed. We've hit a lot of great talking points, and I want to move forward with a little bit of access. How do we get a hold of you? How do we participate within Oplign and all that? How do we support you and your mission and message?
No, that's great. And I'm always here to support. So first off, I'm on LinkedIn. Look for Beau Higgins. I am a prolific LinkedIn utilizer. I mean, I have, a lot of followers, and I put a lot of content out there. That's probably the easiest way to connect with me. I certainly encourage you to check out Oplign. It's www.oplign.com. And again, it's a free tool for any veteran, any military spouse, any student veteran, any nonprofit that is helping veterans. We will give it to you as well. super cool resource that just one that try it out. I mean, there's a lot of resources out there, and again, they can become almost too many sometimes, be confusing. Please check it out. I do also work for a company called the MilVet, the Military Veteran. A very different kind of support. It's for veterans that want to get into the private equity and venture capital space. So the whole different ecosystem and founders and startups. We have a lot of guys though that want to have these ideas that are, young enlisted guys that they want to create a tortilla chip, or they created a new thing or that, or a knife. I mean, dude, ideas, man. And again, if I can help in that space, I love doing that. But please reach out. I mean, I probably have, 6 to 10 conversations a week with different veterans in different phases of their life, whether they're looking for a new career or they're transitioning now. Always happy to share a little bit of my insights. Again, that's what it's all about. It's sending the elevator back down. Nobody does it alone. I am here because people helped me get to where I am. And now I'm at a place where I want to be able to give back and help people to get where they want to be, understand their dreams, because it's hard. I mean, I get it. Again, it looks easy when you're there. I had a guy the other day on I host a podcast as well. And he said, every overnight success was years in the making. And I love that quote, right? Because people think, oh, he's doing great. Like, dude, there was a lot of work and grinding and bad days out there to get to where you are now. So again, I think that's some advice that don't think just to somebody looks good on paper. They're out there doing great things on LinkedIn. It's going good now. Don't get me wrong, but there was a lot of grinding, a lot of hard work that went in to get to this point. And again, you have that same skill set. Everyone out there can do those same things, but you need to don't do it alone. You need to have help to get there. And there are people like yourself, Joey, me, and so many others out there that are willing to help. So please feel free to reach me on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to help any way I can.
Amazing, Beau. I am just so thrilled to continue this relationship. I will have you on all the time. People will be like, hey, is this Beau Higgins show number part 2? I'm like, sure, why not? All right, because dude, I believe in your message and your faith in the community so profoundly. It's refreshing. It's been something this past year and a half. It's been something intriguing in a way where I didn't expect to make it out on the other side of this. And now we're connecting, and now we're creating, and now we're building. So to continue a little bit about yourself, how do we get in touch with you? You mentioned the podcast. Where is that hosted? How do we get involved?
Yeah, I have a podcast. I do 2 different podcasts. One for the MilVet. It's themilvet.org. And that's really focused on transitioning veterans that want to be founders or get into private equity and venture capital. I do an Oplign, the Opcast, I call it. It's www.oplign.com. And I bring on folks that are the military members, usually at companies that are hiring, and talk about their hiring program. So if you're interested in learning about, I just interviewed a guy, Nick Curry from Blue Origin the other day. He'll be on next month, and talking about what companies are out there and what they're looking for in veterans as well. So, but again, the best way to reach out to me is always going to be on LinkedIn. I'm on it all the time. You can't miss me. I promise. Reach out to me. I'm happy to connect with you. Happy to share some of the content, and happy to connect you to other people. Because again, that's the beauty of this, is the network, right? And I've been in this space now for about 10 years in the veteran hiring space. So I know a lot of folks, had a lot of companies, and I'm always happy to share that and send that elevator back down, because people did it for me. So yeah.
Beautiful. Speaking of the people that help you do that, any shout outs?
There's obviously several people in my life that have, been critical to my success. I mean, first and foremost, my wife, she put up with me for all the deployments and all the kids and all the crazy, and, and a couple tours in Lejeune, a couple tours in Pendleton. And, it's not an easy lifestyle. So the biggest shout out goes to her for sure. I had the great fortune to work for some amazing Marines. And actually, just leaders in my time in the military. Now, by the time Colonel Dunford, but General Dunford became, the Commandant of the Marine Corps, all-time classy, great guy that I still stay in touch with. We write letters occasionally and reach out to him once in a while, but was just a profound impact to me on his leadership style and how he did things. And the way he was always willing to make time to have conversations for people like me, who I thought were like nobodies, but if it came down to helping mentor someone, he would clear the decks and help you out. And that guy he set an example that I try to live up to. You're making time for people always to help them out. I worked for a gentleman, General Scotty Miller. He's Army SF guy, just one of the most incredible leaders that I ever worked with. And I saw someone that just cared about his people, and just was able to process about all this information and always get to the point very quick. And I love that. Like, just like, hey, I don't have time for all this. I was just like, okay, I can take it all in. And he's like, okay, this is the plan. Like, man, I just respected that and the way he worked and dealt with, he's another one. General Waldhauser, the colonel at my muse a couple times, and he was another mentor of mine. So I had some great leaders that I looked up to that I just, I think kind of like a toolbox analogy. You're always taking bits and pieces of people's leadership style and say, when I have the opportunity, I'm going to do it that way. I think you're also doing like the reverse is those bad leaders, like that dude never, so like it's, you have the flip side of that coin of those leaders that you, the reverse shout out, whatever. I don't know what it is. I won't say any names there, but those lessons learned are just as important. I think maybe even more important of what you don't want to do versus what you do want to do. So,
we'll call it the shout out shit out from now on. Because oh my God, that's amazing. All right, Beau. Well, thank you so much for your time. Welcome again to the Devil Doc Talk Show in our community. I look forward to maintaining and building upon this relationship, beautiful things for our community. And again, thank you so much for your time.
No, appreciate it. It's been a pleasure to be here today. Thank you. Look forward to anytime I can ever be of help, let me know. And it's been great to be here today. So thanks again for having me.